we can start doing like full-on episodes that we put on YouTube, but this allows me to control anonymity, which I know is really important.
I could always just wear a mask. I'll wear a motorcycle helmet.
Oh, that'd be pretty cool. Get that. You can finally get that Venom one.
But you wear the one with the open face.
That Venom one would be badass if it wasn't for the fact that it's probably only really good to wear on a podcast. It's pretty shitty otherwise.
Probably we'll just have to get you like, oh man, we'd have to get a microphone for the inside of it. Otherwise, you're gonna sound like this the entire time you're talking in it.
I've got a setup.
Oh, do you? Oh, cool.
I've got a Bluetooth setup.
Nice.
I love this idea.
That's not the worst idea I've ever heard. It's not the worst.
I'm gonna just put on my ninja mask, my ninja demon mask that I've got,
and a pair of sunglasses. And a wig.
Probably not.
Like I said, misunderstanding
I
assignment.
have a couple of great wigs.
One.
Yeah.
I'll just
misunderstanding the
I'll
assignment.
get like a top hat or something like that.
Yeah. You just wear a monocle.
That'll be the entire thing. Nobody would ever recognize me now that I have this monocle.
It's like Clark
work
Kent
for
Superman.
I like this idea very much. I think that we should go with it.
That'd be really, what'd be really funny is to actually do it as a theme and like continuously wear some sort of ridiculous disguise that doesn't actually help at all. Like every episode. Like have something new all the time.
Every single
wear like a bandana, but have it like on the forehead, wrapped all over in like 1980s style.
Yeah. I look forward to.
I'm wearing a bandana, man, so nobody can recognize me. It's anonymity.
A Fu Manchu mustache.
It's the fucking those cheesy glasses with the fake nose and mustache. Yeah.
Oh yeah, looking like Groucho Marx a little bit, maybe.
You can see this going, like just constantly showing up dressed up as like you're like show up like dressed in a vest with a white shirt and black pants with a red stripe on. I'm like, no man, I'm Han Solo. Han Solo.
I like the idea of you dressing up as Where's Waldo, but like having nobody else in the room to confuse anybody. So you're like, you can't see me. I'm fucking Waldo right now.
I was thinking a Mitch Hedberg kind of, the dark glasses. And
get a cardboard cutout of myself.
Get a cardboard cutout of your face and put it on your face. That's great. What else could we do? We could do a fence for Wilson from Home Improvement. That'd be pretty good.
That'd be pretty cool.
That'd be all right.
I actually like the idea of a cardboard cutout of Will's face as your mask.
That's pretty good too. Welcome to the Save vs. Poison podcast, the podcast dedicated to gaming, general geekery, and enduring sobriety in an ever-maddening society, with your host Will and two guys that probably live under his stairs. If you're an addict, know an addict, or are just interested in exploring the outer mysteries of geekery, you're in the right place. Without further ado, let's get to the show. Welcome back to the show, everybody. It's Season 4, Episode 3. My name is Will. I am your host. And we've got a good show for you tonight, everybody. I've got all of my co-hosts. It's delightful. It's exciting. At least I'm excited. I don't know if they're excited. We're going to find out, though, in just a second as I introduce them.
I'm like at half-mast.
Yeah. Oh, my God. It fluttered? That's amazing. I'm so glad to hear that. Just recently, when the company he worked for asked about the possibility of using VPN technology for security purposes, he blurted out, like for horse porn? He is currently looking for new opportunities. He's my friend Tiki.
Yeah, I mean, it's not just horse porn. That was just one example. So you say, like this? Not actually that. Like that.
I just like that it was Pavlovian. Like, you couldn't help it. You were like, VPN? I know what that's for.
I know those letters.
I know what those do.
And I know what they mean in that order. Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude, I'm on top of a lot of shit. But with that one, I think it's a little bit kind of discriminatory to be like, I can't believe you said it. You mean like horse porn? And I was like, yeah, like horse. It's a perfect sound. Like you want to keep that private, right?
I like that you're reframing this as a non-kink shaming issue.
Yeah,
it also includes bovine porn.
Thank you. It doesn't have to be just.
Oh, I'm gonna milk that
porn.
steer. I'm gonna milk that steer. Also joining me tonight, he once leveraged his Hispanic heritage to con his neighbors out of a dozen donuts. that they had just purchased by saying, "Give me the donuts or I tell everyone you call me the gardener." He was heard later saying between donut burps, "White people are so easy." He's my friend Steve. Nice psyop there, buddy. Get yourself a dozen King Supers.
Yeah. King Supers are fine. I'm okay with that.
I know.
They don't have to be great donuts, as long as they are donuts.
You were ready to spark a race war for that.
I mean, I've tried to do that for less.
for less than a $4 dozen of donuts. God, that's
for just one donut.
That's so for one donut. It was a Lamar's though, right? At least
it was definitely Lamar's.
Yeah, at least a Lamar's. Okay, good. How's it going, guys? How are you doing tonight?
Doing good, feeling good.
All right.
Everybody have a good weekend. Anything of note happen this weekend? Anything life-affirming? Anything that we, as friends of each other, have been yearning for almost 21 and a half years?
I'll tell you this much. I did. In my living room as some decorations, I hung up a pair of hockey jerseys for the Avalanche.
Did you?
Yeah,
what did they do?
I don't know. It's they were in a special game or something like that.
One special game.
Yeah, they won a special game.
Oh man.
They just wanted to rub it in the other team's nose too. They didn't want to do it here. That's exactly why you win in the other guy's building. So, anyways, the Colorado Avalanche with I don't know how big a fan Steve is actually. We've never actually talked about it, Steve. But Tiki and I are a big part of we're a part of a little tiny community of friends that the biggest call to action for all of us to get together is to hang out and watch hockey. And having just sort of re-entered that sphere in the last month and a half, to be able to dip my toe, feel comfortable enough with my sobriety because watching hockey is a trigger for me, or at least it had been in the past, and then be able to re-engage with this group of friends. And then this last Sunday, since you're listening to this on Wednesday, we're recording on Monday. So last night, the Colorado Avalanche won Lord Stanley's Cup, and I'm pretty sure that cup is going to get every single one of those players pregnant when they have their one day with the cup coming up.
I thought you got a week with the cup.
What's that?
I thought they got like a week with the cup. Isn't just one day?
I think it's just one day.
Oh.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it's just one day. Because the rest of the time, the cup is like doing, the rounds and doing like charity work and stuff like that.
I know how cups work.
First, there's two girls. Sometimes there's a horse or a bovine.
Usually just one cup, though. Yeah. No, I watched the game last night over at our friend's place, and it was pretty intense. Pretty
fucking magical. I love that our mutual friend sent a text that was like, I couldn't even enjoy the game because I was so nervous for the last 25 minutes. And I'm like, yeah, no, I get it, man. I don't think I sat down for more than a minute during that entire time. Every time I had to go to the bathroom, it was like, quick. I almost gave myself a hernia trying to piss it out so that I didn't miss any of the
last
action.
5 were brutal.
Once the Avalanche went up 2-1, I felt absolutely dominated the game. There was just, you look at Tampa had 0 shots on net through the first half of the third period. They were just smothered in their own zone. They couldn't get anything going. Colorado was disrupting all of their plays and still trying to push the puck down and score again. And Tampa, I just think that is ultimately the showing of when everyone says that those two teams are really equal. I don't tend to think so. I think that Colorado was somewhere well above Tampa. They just kept screwing themselves over.
Yeah, and there's questions about whether or not because Tampa had to go 7 games a couple times during the earlier series in the playoffs, whether or not that they had the legs. We know that the Avs did 2 sweeps and then.
Yep. 6-game series.
A 6-game series with St. Louis, and that was it.
Yep.
That's nuts. That's so friggin' nuts that they had that much time off to rest and recuperate.
I can't believe they went 16-4 through the playoffs. That's pretty huge. And you said in the last 50 years, there's only been 3 other teams that have done that.
Yep. And then Cale Makar, number 8, 23-year-old defensive phenom, 29 points between goals and assists, getting the Conn Smythe that was, I mean, what a fucking fairy tale of a year for that 23-year-old. 23-year-old.
He's like won at every level. He has like all the fucking trophies.
All the fucking trophies.
Yeah, so like
he got
like
the Norris Trophy this year as the league's best defenseman. Like
he won the Calder as the top rookie.
It's like the only way that his year gets better is if like he like gets to hold the Stanley Cup on ice in front of an entire packed stadium while getting a blowjob from 15 of his favorite crushes.
He also on his first shift in his first game, which was a playoff game, he scored a goal.
Yep. Very first shift, very first game.
Yeah, very first shift, very first game. Just, I guess the question now kind of comes, what have you done with your life?
I'm finally doing it in my 40s. I'm going to put some podcasts on YouTube.
That's cool.
That's about it.
What?
That's what I'm going to do.
Good for you, buddy.
Thanks, buddy.
Good
Thanks. Really aim for the middle of the technological revolution that is YouTube.
You really are.
All right, well,
let's keep on shooting it upwards.
Yep. So today we're going to talk about meeting our potential. No,
That's really not a topic we should bring up on this podcast.
Shouldn't. I like being old enough now that nobody asks me about my potential anymore. That's nice. Like, it's also a little bit sad, but it's nice that nobody's like, you just haven't reached your full potential, which I always thought was kind of a backhanded compliment. Now they're just like, you're probably where you should be. Yeah.
You tell them that you're doing internet stuff, and they go, oh.
So you've got an OnlyFans with 3 people on it, do you? That's interesting.
Internet stuff.
VPN. Internet stuff.
Yeah, dude. Well, I mean, yeah. It's private. You want to make it private, all right? That's just all I'm saying.
No, you leave it purposely vague so that they think you have an OnlyFans and are doing well.
Yeah. Because everybody on OnlyFans is absolutely raking it in.
Yeah. And then use a VPN so they don't find out about your horse porn thing.
Yeah.
That's
I let them
that's
because
that's a good side hustle actually.
I want to challenge the predominant narrative that horse porn is bad.
I don't know that it's good, man.
I don't either, and I keep trying. I just keep going back to that well, and it never does anything for me. But I figure that for the sake of the horses that all want to be porn stars, I gotta put in that elbow grease, as it were.
That's actually really a thing. Anyway.
Horse gets to heaven and he's like, what did you do for a living? Oh, I was a racehorse. Another one gets there. Oh, I was a draft horse. What did you do there, Clopper? Oh, well, I tried to make it in porn, but
you know what though? You know what that horse did though, because he's clever. He got a disguise, an upper torso of a human male.
Nice.
Just wore it over his head and walked around like he was a centaur.
That's pretty fun. Was it my face that he had as a mask?
Could have been your face as a mask. I don't. Well, that would explain why it wasn't successful. But yeah,
maybe
that would.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe depending on what period of my life I was in. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Whatever you got to tell yourself. That's.
I have cheekbones now, man. I've lost enough weight. I got cheekbones. I'm allowed to be proud of those.
I was thinking like you were talking about your past, and I'm like, no, back when I was like 27. I'm like, no, not for me either.
I was fat and
I didn't really have
back
cheekbones back then. I had more of a kind of a roundish kind of look to me.
I looked like I was a squirrel trying to hide nuts.
Yeah, Jesus. I've never actually been able to do the full beard. I've always been able to do the clean shaven and like that like, male model 5 o'clock shadow.
Yeah.
And then that serial killer, like I've been sleeping on the streets for 3 weeks straight and I'm going to murder somebody. Those are the 3, I think, in terms of what beards I can pull off.
I'm still waiting for you to try pencil thin mustache.
That would be pretty baller.
I really want to see that. I actually think you'd look pretty good with like a Virginia Slim cigarette every once in a while.
Oh yeah.
I think that could be a look for you.
Wait. Men don't smoke those.
Men with pencil thin mustaches can do whatever the fuck they want. All right.
That's true. You know what I should get to is that long filter thing too for the cigarette.
Oh God, yeah.
Yes.
Hell yeah. Then you can pontificate the way that
Panama Jack suit. Just.
Ooh, you are painting a picture right now.
Yeah, I really am actually at this point.
Come get it, ladies.
That's pretty badass.
Come get it.
Anyway. Enough about my fashion and amazing beard.
I love the idea of this as a look for you, though. Like, I'm gonna continue doing the Elliot Gould thing from Ocean's 11 because that's my jam. Steve's gonna keep making noise at his
Chewing
end
on
of
his microphone
of the world. Yeah, put his microphone in his mouth. Steve, what are you doing?
Putting the microphone in my mouth.
Right
clearly.
in there.
I mean,
We're definitely gonna edit that.
you got it in one. I don't know
Stop
what you're
it.
trying to figure out.
God, how many holes are you gonna put that thing in? Horseporn.
Holy shit! Now I don't know if I want to edit that out. That was a pretty good joke. Horse porn.
This is the sound effect at the end. I think that really did it.
It was.
Yeah.
Fuck. That derailed me. That wasn't even a Steve psyop. That was a good one. That was a good one. Fuck it. Speaking of non sequiturs, my name's Will, and I'm an alcoholic.
My name's Tiki, and I'm an alcoholic.
My name's Steve. I'm not an alcoholic, but I did discover I'm a very deep sleeper. How did you discover this?
Okay,
Steve?
how did you discover this, Steve?
Well,
I love that you, like, every one of your psyop things, Steve psyops now has to, like, I have to, like, engage with it before you get to the point.
Yeah.
Like, how did you discover this, Steve? Did you fall asleep on a train and wake up with your head in somebody else's lap?
In the future, you could actually prompt us and say, "Ask me how I know."
Isn't that what I basically do when I say, "How do you know this, Steve?"
Yeah, but stop doing it passive aggressively. All right.
Oh, I always leave a pause for that, and then it's a long pause, so I feel the need to fill that space. So here's how I know this. A couple of weeks back now, I woke up, came downstairs, looked out my window, and there's all this debris in my front yard.
The debris.
And I asked my wife, I was like, "What happened?" And she goes, "I don't know. I was going to ask you." So I go out to inspect it, and there's the kind of kitty litter to soak up oil. My neighbor's tree has been annihilated.
Huh.
I am trying to figure out what the hell happened.
Did you move to Tornado Alley?
Did I? That was the question. Was it what has gone on? So the neighbor pops out and she goes, "Were you home last night?" And we're like, "Yeah." She goes, "You're kidding." I was like, "No." Turns out a drunk driver destroyed a tree, rolled his car, tagged my car just a tiny bit, and ended up in my front yard. This dude survived, I guess. There was cops, there were ambulances, there were fire trucks, there was a tow truck. The cop apparently banged on my door a couple times. We had no idea. Me and my wife slept through this whole thing.
Wow.
Like, this was not a quiet affair. So much that, they thought we weren't home.
Is this a standard occurrence in your neighborhood?
This is not a standard
it's not
occurrence
a bad
in the neighborhood. No,
I've been to your house a few times. It's not a bad neighborhood.
This was a very unusual thing. We were very shocked that it had happened. Hell, I mean, a week or so on, I'm still in a little bit of shock that it happened. That
they didn't plow through your fucking living room, like Jesus.
Well, so that tree actually saved them from plowing through the neighbor's house, and where my car was parked, I think is helped it from not being taken out by that one. It was a crazy situation. Apparently the guy was pretty messed up, according to the neighbors. I mean, like, I guess every neighbor was out. I have no idea how we slept through this.
Wow. I mean,
very deep sleepers.
Yeah, I expected more of a comedic bent to this.
I mean,
but now I'm just glad that you were okay. Like,
yeah, no, we're all fine. It's comedic in the sense that we really slept through the shit.
That's pretty amusing. So something of note happened. Oh.
Did it now?
Did it? I mean, I imagine that. Yeah. Wow. Fuck me.
Yeah,
Oof.
it's crazy. It was a crazy thing to wake up to. crazy story to get after the fact.
Did you walk out with no pants on or something? Like, is there anything like what?
No, I mean, well, I walked out and just like what I essentially woke up in a pair of like gym shorts and just a tank top, and so yeah, I wasn't exactly
uniform,
like ready for the day. I mean,
no, come on, tank top and gym shorts. That's your uniform, buddy. I know it.
No, a tank top and sweatpants shorts.
Oh,
not
you're right.
shorts.
Sorry, my bad. You're right.
Nighttime facilitates a different pair of pants.
yeah, I turned into my formal self because what am I, a farmer?
Exactly.
Right. Well, I'm glad you're okay. Interesting that
okay.
now everybody on the podcast knows that you will sleep through them busting into your house and stealing your shit.
I have slept through a fire across the street when my window faced it. Not at this home, but at a different one. And I have slept through an earthquake. So, yes, quite.
So wherever you live, some sort of natural disaster or tragedy follows.
There you go. That's the takeaway.
Just a magnet for awful things happening that you're like, I mean, I had a good dream.
You have a commercial from like farmers. We've seen a thing or two, and also if Steve is your neighbor.
Yeah.
I'm some sort of weird ill omen.
Yeah.
Is there like a neighborhood?
You said that, not me.
Yeah. I gotta ask, is there like a neighborhood watch kind of alliance kind of a thing going on in your neighborhood?
Oh, evidently, because like everybody else was out there.
Because like you should like have a sign that says I would be a part of the neighborhood watch, but I'm unfortunately.
But I'll be sleeping.
I'll be sleeping. I've got more important dreams.
It's not a neighborhood watch coming out to see the wreck. That's just everybody with functional hearing.
I mean, it's a little bit of neighborhood watch.
Like, really, it's just the neighborhood
they heard
watching.
Shit going on.
It's not
they came and watched.
Watch.
It's the spectacle.
It's a different thing.
Steve's out there with popcorn. What happened, you guys? Ooh, this has got extra butter on it. Extra butter.
I'd shake your hand, but my hand's covered in butter.
It's all buttery.
It's all buttery.
Horseporn.
I was using my VPN earlier.
Yeah, there it is. There
Wake up for the horseporn.
That's just going to be a thing for the rest of this episode.
Yeah, it's going to be a galloping gag.
How can you slip it in? How can you slip it in casually?
Not easily. Thing's huge.
Mm-hmm.
Huge.
You can. It's not always a horse on a person for porn. It can be person.
Sometimes
on
it's a
horse.
bovine.
On a horse?
It's a bovine. Sometimes you just get somebody to dress up like a centaur.
The psyop is working, Steve. Good job.
Okay, go ahead.
It's working.
You were saying something about being an alcoholic.
I was gonna follow up with the whole alcoholism thing. I had a craving watching the Avs game on Friday, not on Sunday, but on Friday. Sunday I was too nervous to think about anything but the game. Friday though, we've talked about the fact that advertising for alcohol is ubiquitous with our culture. And no more so than I think during sporting events. Now, I dabbled in the finer aspects of most hard liquors. Like, by the end of it, I was drinking, $20 bottles of Tito's and bottles of Jack. But when I was, in my early 30s, late 20s, I was like, all right, so, let's try the cognacs, let's try the brandies, let's try the good quality tequilas and the scotches. This was back when, the drinking problem was in its infancy, and I hadn't, I wasn't getting drunk every day, but when I was drinking, I was always drinking to excess. So it was, maybe once or twice a week instead of every day, like it became towards the end. And at that time, I wanted to experiment with stuff. I was like, are these tequilas good? Are these rums good? Tried aged rum and aged tequila and all that kind of crap. And I saw an ad that I thought was it was a pretty good ad by Jose Cuervo. I think it was Cuervo, but it was a pretty good ad by Cuervo. And it really did trigger a big, gigantic, oh, man, I can't drink. I want to have a drink. I want to try that. Looks like look at all these friends having fun. And of course, sure, the first, 2 hours of that kind of night was always fun, but embarrassing shit that comes at the 3 and 4 and 5 hour mark when you didn't slow down and the world started spinning and you turned into an asshole. That's the eventuality of that. And of course, that's my favorite tool for thinking about where I would be going if I was having a drink. Not even just the big consequences later on down the road, but just the immediate ones right around the bend. So yeah, had a craving. Moved past it pretty quickly though, and then got back to watching hockey. And of course, they lost that night, which I immediately started streaming right after the game was over. But I had good friends in the stream that I was able to chat with, and then playing Hunt and having really, really good games of Hunt. Friday night actually turned out to be a really, really great evening, and had a fun time. Tiki, how are you doing, bud?
Good. A couple of points of feedback for you there.
Yes.
One, if you're going to go about experimenting, make sure you're using a VPN. And two, the Earth is always spinning.
Well, there you go.
So,
Fuck
there you have
me.
it.
Well, actually.
Yep. Whoa, there we go with
fucking
it.
well actually.
Yeah, well, fucking actually. I've been all right. I mean, I've been like really stressed about, just personal stuff. And
Yeah.
the avalanche didn't help at all at certain points. Friday, I was very frustrated. I watched at home, so there's no alcohol or anything. So I don't know. It's like the temptation to drink when it's simply not an option.
Yeah.
It isn't quite as strong as when you're like at your buddy's basement bar and there's all sorts of booze everywhere.
It's all there. Yeah.
So I'm like, I could just jump off the wagon right now. And I was like, nah, I gotta ride my motorcycle later.
Yeah.
Luckily for me, is also another way of not drinking, because I'm not going to drink if I've ridden my motorcycle.
Yeah, that's a quick way to dead.
Yeah, it's a really bad combination. What else? Not much. There hasn't been too much going on with me in terms of alcohol or alcoholism lately. I would like to, and I brought this up earlier with you before the show, and I wanted to make sure and point this out. I watched a movie called The Babysitter Must Die, and it was terrible. It's about a home invasion, and the babysitter's got to fight back and save the family. There's one point in the movie where a pizza delivery driver shows up. The bad guys all go outside to either hunt, chase, shoot, or do something to the pizza delivery guy. And the babysitter comes downstairs and then goes into the basement where the family is to try and save them. And it's like, you could have just locked the fucking door.
Yeah. That's a deadbolt, you guys.
Yeah, you just like walking over there, lock the front door, and then like go call the cops and shit. Like, hey man, there's people trying to murder us here.
I just like that you're like, nope, it's the pizza delivery guy's problem now. Haha.
Yeah, that was pretty much it. They're like, oh my god, he's chasing the pizza delivery. I'm like, I mean, seriously, like this is a practical. What I'm getting at is this was a practical solution to an unnecessarily complicated situation.
Yeah.
Just going over, lock the front door, arm the alarm system, and save the day. 30-some-odd-year-old babysitter.
Yeah.
She is clearly not 18 like they were trying to portray her as. It was a bad movie. You know what? Doesn't matter. Important for her to make, though, find easy solutions to complicated problems.
Easy solutions.
You can find them. Cut through the bullshit. Get to the root of it. Cut the snake off at its head. Just go out and, invent a giant condom for horses. Just do what you need to do to cut through the bullshit.
I love the thought of that's somebody's way to not drink. You know what? Horse condom.
I don't know.
Well, you know what? The next time they're mad, maybe the next time they're angry and they're looking at a bottle of booze and they see that little cap on the top of the spout and they go, kind of looks like a little bit of a condom tip there, doesn't it?
I gotta get back on my horse condom project.
The Tiki and Steve and Bill, whatever his name is, what were they trying to say?
Don't call me Bill. Offsides.
So yeah, that was my big takeaway from that movie. But I'm pretty sure there was supposed to be something else to it, and I know what the rest of the plot is. I like at that scene, I was like, no, seriously, it's right there. Like, come on,
you could just do it.
Yeah, I'm not trying to be a dick, but like it's like you're driving on the highway, like you're like, man, my leg is getting tired from pushing down on the gas all the time. Like, turn on the cruise control. What?
Huh?
It's right there.
There was a subreddit or a question on Reddit that was like, just remind me exactly of this. What movies could have been shorter if they had just done a logical solution to begin with? This fits right in there.
Yeah.
Yeah, like you're like watching Jurassic Park, like the original one, and you're like, hire more than one IT guy.
Yeah.
Like, more than one sysadmin. Like, why would you only have one guy doing that job?
Well, they thought that Unix was a...
He spared no expense.
3D...
He spared a lot of expense, I'll have you know.
Yeah. Hammond, you idiot.
God. Spared no expense on this, except for that. That right there, I didn't...
That ice cream was good, though.
These guys.
That ice cream
looked real good.
These people that work for me. What's your name? Really? That's your name? Oh, shit. Wow. Yeah, anyway, he works for me. He does the computer stuff. It's just like... you have like an HR or a training program or... No.
Maybe.
Spared no expense. Did you bother to buy a network monitoring solution of any kind or a fucking firewall? No? Okay, then you clearly spared some expense.
You cut corners, you son of a bitch.
Oh, yeah,
and now what have you got?
Buy a whole fucking island, yeah?
Dinosaurs.
Yeah, buy the whole fucking island, but you can't. Yeah.
That's what you've got. You've got goddamn copies all over the place.
Yeah, there's all sorts of expenses that were spared. That and the fact that all the cages and everything fail to open, that like drives me up the wall too. It's like you could have just had everything fail close.
Yeah.
Like they lose power, they just lock. They just close.
Yeah.
They're like
that's
no
the
real time
fail-safe.
at all.
Everything locks down.
Yeah. Instead of the opposite direction where it's like, well, no, because if we lose power out here on this remote island where we don't have our own reactor or our own power grid, we're actually very reliant on somebody else. If anything goes wrong, all the animals get loose. I don't like what's the problem with that?
And just on the other side of the island is the village of idiots who don't know exactly what's going on this side of the island.
Like, what about the T-Rex if it gets loose? You're like, oh, you're on an island, man. T-Rex can't swim. Didn't you watch Land Before Time? Duh.
Duh.
You call yourself a
fucking
paleontologist.
Littlefoot was my guy. Cheers. Steve, you got anything to share? Mental health?
Kind of disaster.
No. I think I'm good.
You good? Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Well, moving into tonight's topic of conversation. So, one of the things that we kind of steer away from on the show is any kind of politics. Alcoholism doesn't have, in my point of view, politics that should be ascribed to it because I always feel like, a large-sized arena worth of people every year die from alcohol and alcohol-related problems, and they're from every side of the political spectrum. There's evangelical Christians and there's hippie liberals. They're all over the place as far as what they believe, what their morality, centers around. And I don't care what that is. I want you to be sober if you need to be sober. That's what I care about the most. So anytime we add politics into that mix, I think it kind of dilutes the message. But there is one sort of moral philosophical question that, addicts, I think, have a little bit of potential insight into addressing. And even though I think the three of us probably share the same sort of like basic moral code around this, the question is, should substances that can lead to addiction, should they be more or less controlled by an authoritarian third party? And when I look at that question, I think to myself, if it had been more difficult for me to get access when I was younger to alcohol, would it have changed who and what I am today? Would I have been able to spare myself the frustration and agony of my 30s? What do you guys think of that, Tiki?
Oh, I've spent a lot longer than that hating myself. No, for me, I would put it. So regulation isn't necessary. Access isn't always the key. although it is a part of that. And we have examples to draw upon from our past where things like prohibition backfired tremendously.
And the war on drugs currently, as it sits, is a gigantic disaster.
But are there other ways around these things where we legalize and regulate, and we basically say there's an acceptable per year loss or something to that effect?
I mean, because
I think that's kind of like the weird thing about society. I think that's kind of where we are. We're like literally just saying, well, that's an acceptable number of people who died of like liver cirrhosis or drug driving accidents. There's like a certain amount that our society basically is willing to tolerate.
And it's funny because it's over something that is not elective. Alcohol is elective. You don't need alcohol. It's not part of Maslow's hierarchy, really. At least not the important parts of it. It's not food. It's at one point in time in history, I know that it was used for preserving liquid and calories because we lived in an era where calorically dense food and clean water was more difficult to come by than it is now. But, nowadays, clean food and water is pretty easy to get your hands on. It doesn't take that much. And I'm not downplaying, the fact that there are people in the world that are still starving, yes. But as far as historically is concerned, we have more in abundance now than we've ever had as a species, I think.
Yeah, and to your point, there was a point in time where, a lot of human society has alcohol to thank for its preservation and evolution, because the water was not clean enough to drink, but you could distill it and make booze, and then you'd be okay with that. And beer the same way, you have to boil the water to make beer. That's cool. That means that the microbes, the bacteria, the viruses that's in there, it's all destroyed, and therefore this is clean to drink. The water out of, like, say, the tap, a little bit questionable. And that's actually, like, our society actually, like, as humans, we actually have alcohol to thank for our continued kind of progress to a point. But I think that I would hope, I hope that we've reached a point where we can look at and reevaluate those fortunate judgment calls back then compared to or relative to the infrastructures we've built today.
Right.
Yeah. Wow, that was a lot of big words. Holy shit.
It worked. Steve, what do you think?
What do I think? Well, I think that
because you can moderate.
Yeah, well, and that's right. That's kind of the crux of the problem, right? Is that there are those of us out there that can. I can have one beer and not have another one.
Yeah.
And so, is that fair to you guys who can't? Like,
I don't know that
should
fair
there be?
To me. Is it? Being fair to me isn't really the point. That's like.
Well, no, but that's the question, though, right? Like, the question is, should there be more regulation or not? That's kind of what Will sort of ask.
Yeah.
So that's the issue. Is it fair in any of those terms? But on both sides, right? Like, because as you brought up many times, you see. In fact, I literally just saw a commercial for some beer. It is shoved in your face so much. That's a rough thing. That's a hard thing to deal with.
Yeah.
But like you said, it is sort of a self-policing thing, right? Like, so. Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a complex thing. Like,
it is. It's very nuanced, and there's this sort of idea behind, or not idea behind, but there's this. I kind of get this feeling like it's either like nanny state or freedom.
Yeah.
And
where's the in between?
But I'm almost always going to want, like, personally, I'm almost always going to want to err on the side of freedom, and then those that have to deal with a little bit more. A few more trials and tribulations, like Tiki and I, when it comes to alcohol. That's just kind of a price that we individually have to pay for, society being a little bit more free.
Sure, but at the same time, what about those who really can't? I would say that you guys are some of the better case scenarios in that you have these tools, you really look at it that way, and hopefully, obviously, these tools keep helping you. There are people who don't have those tools. There are people who don't have these coping mechanisms in place, and there's even people who have them and still are gonna fail at this.
Oh yeah.
So
I'd like to bring up a point of kind of normalization, and there's a really real world example of it in America. NASCAR. You've got the Coors Light car, you've got the Bud Light car, you've got the Miller Lite car, you've got every kind of beer car. Now, like 10 years ago or 15 years ago, there was a Crown Royal wanted to sponsor a car. And there was all this pushback from all of these. Even that you'd have a guy, like you literally have the driver of the Coors Light car arguing why Crown Royal should not be allowed to have a car because it's influencing alcohol and drunk driving. The irony, the absolute
that's
fucking
pretty
disconnect.
That's pretty ridiculous, yeah.
But the like in America, our ability, and it's not everybody does this, but actually everybody does this just to certain degrees. And in this one example, the ability to simply disconnect those two things. I mean, because the controversy, raged on for like 3 or 4 months before NASCAR was finally like, huff and puff and fine, we'll let it happen. And it's like, Jesus Christ, do you think people don't drink a ton of beer and then wrap their car around a light pole?
Yeah.
Like you don't have to have hard liquor to do that.
No, you don't.
and take it from a guy who's been to Scotland and drank the Tactical Nuclear Penguin, which is like, Jesus, something like 40% ABV as a beer. Like, God in heaven, that was
love that name.
Rough. But what I'm getting at is the type doesn't seem to matter. The logical fallacies that we will allow ourselves to buy into, and the gymnastics, the mental gymnastics that we will jump through in order to make something work for us.
Sure, I mean,
now that's not everybody.
What's to stop NASCAR from having, for letting Snoop Dogg's weed brand sponsoring a car?
Well, it's not a federal, because it's not federally.
But my point being, because you're absolutely right in that. My point being though that like, it really does become some of these things that are splitting hairs, and with the no, Crown Royal's bad. I mean, it's no worse than the beer. The weed is in that same thing. Like, but
I don't know about that. Like, can you imagine like a weed sponsored car? You come in last like every time.
Like everybody comes in last.
Like,
there's no NASCAR driver wins.
What do you think your pit stop would be awful. Like, they just had the camera on you for like 10 minutes while your crew is like, oh, fuck.
No.
So you just implied that they're doing this while on these substances. Like, I hope that NASCAR is not
totally
doing it.
It's funnier this way.
It's funnier because here's what we can do. We can treat them like greyhounds at the park, where we just put like a quarter pounder with cheese on a rail and just have that rail go around the track.
I mean,
and every single one of the drivers is doing 5 miles an hour to try to get to it.
Yeah, just you like have the stick, like the broom pole with a string hanging off the front, like a quarter pounder right there.
Yeah.
Or like a donut, like the guy's driving.
I'm gonna get that donut today. I'm gonna get that donut.
Donuts, yeah. I mean, the races would take for fucking ever, but they already take for fucking ever. So this wouldn't be. I don't think anyone would notice. That's a good point.
It's just one lap down from 500 laps to 1 lap, but it still takes 4 hours.
So anyway, the point is that there are, regardless of regulation, regardless of prohibition or access control or all these other pieces to it, right? We can line up like 1,001 mitigations. At some point in time, there's a toehold. There's something that gets a hold of that logical fallacy in our brains, in the American brain, where one thing isn't as bad as the other. And it's either because of branding, or it's because of taste preference, or it's because hard liquor versus beer versus wine versus whatever.
Yeah.
Why isn't there, you think about it, why isn't there a wine sponsored car? Like, Franzia should have a goddamn NASCAR.
You assume that they don't.
I think it's got to be
I actually do assume that they don't. That's true. That's rather mean of me to think that that NASCAR wouldn't be enlightened enough to have a Franzia sponsored car.
It's totally possible. That's totally possible.
Weird question, literally because a weird thing just happened. is there a beer car anymore? Because there's a commercial, weirdly enough, right now for NASCAR, and I'm not seeing one.
I honestly don't know. I have no
It was
clue.
all like oil and stuff like that.
Yeah.
No, it's always been a lot of oil and stuff like that. I mean, so for a long time, NASCAR had like Marlboro and Camel cigarettes and all of that, and R.J. Reynolds.
Yeah, I remember that.
And do they do it
anymore?
No, because there's a federal law that says they can't advertise to anything that could even remotely be watched, viewed, or perceived.
No, I mean the beer car.
Oh, I think so. I mean, I imagine that the beer car actually just drives around to all the different pit stops and then basically offers up free beer or even beer at a low price, like the beer car at a golf course. I imagine that's still a thing.
So could Snoop Dogg sponsor a Corona car then?
The 2 Cup Series car driven by NASCAR Hall of Famer Rusty Wallace is the Coors Light car. So, yeah, it still exists as of 2022. So, yes.
Beer is still okay.
Now
hard liquor is okay.
No one.
For Loco, they should have a car within a matter of who even knows what kind of timeline that is.
They have a heart attack.
I tried for Loco like once, and it was a terrible, terrible mistake.
It was a wonderful experience, and you loved every moment of it.
I did not love the next day either.
I don't doubt that at all. So, back to the original question. Should this stuff be legalized? Should it be illegal? I mean, we make trade-offs all the time, and for some reason, some trade-offs are worth protecting life over, and some are not. And I always wonder where that line is. And of course, being the person I am with the politics that I have, I always think that the cost of life has to be pretty egregious before I'm interested in curtailing freedoms almost unilaterally. And especially for this, especially since we know prohibition didn't work, addicts will get what they want via the processes of corruption that exist in human nature. The drug war is a horrible, horribly mismanaged mistake that I still hear like hardliners going, no, man, we got to keep drugs legal, got to keep drugs. They'll ruin people's lives. Motherfucker, they are already ruining people's lives, and we're paying millions and millions and millions on a monthly basis. Like billions of dollars worth of money used to try to fight, people's inclination to wanting substances. And if the focus was put on education and addiction prevention, I think you would see, and treatment, I think you would see much better outcomes than just the tag him and bag him, toss him in jail kind of punitive measures that have so pervaded, Western society.
Yeah, this is it's going to wind up being a much bigger conversation than just this, but for me, it's going to come back to, legalizing, regulating access to. One of the big ones for me is also if somebody is on drugs, it shouldn't be illegal. I know that it's not in most states. It's not illegal to have drugs in your system. It's illegal to be acting weird in public and all other shit. But it should not result in you going to jail. It should result in you going to like a hospital.
Yeah, I mean,
you should go and get care. You shouldn't be thrown in a cold jail cell. But that by the way is just we would. But then if we go into that, you go down that rabbit hole, we wind up having to talk about universal health care. We don't have to talk about it. Just
these are
no, they're much deeper, and we don't have. But
you guys, you gotta remember, okay? I mean, it's what we talked about earlier. Like if the bad guys are all outside, you just
lock the door. Yeah.
It's an easy fucking solution. The movie's already over. I don't have to sit through it now.
Yeah, but I do with the alcohol.
You can just enjoy your popcorn. Steve, are you basically kind of on board with that same kind of thinking?
Yeah, I mean, locking the door seems like a very, very good plan.
Solid solution.
No, man, yeah, it's obviously more complex than just
than a goofy dick joke podcast is going to tackle today. Oh yeah, of course it is.
Yeah, I mean, I'm fairly certain we solved the problem right here, right now, for everything, for everyone. I'm
going to literally title this the one that we solved the world's addiction
solved
problems.
The problem.
It's all done. It's all done.
Solved
We're
all
good.
the problems. There we go.
We're
good.
There's so many.
Let's talk about video games, huh?
Sounds
like we did our part.
I've done my part.
But yeah, for the most part, I absolutely agree. Yes.
Okay.
It's.
Well, good to know we're legalize it, regulate it, treat it. As far as a moral grounding goes, yeah. Cheers, right on.
Sweet, we solved it.
Steve, this next section, this is the gaming section. This was your idea. This was your baby. You birthed
my baby.
It. You sat on the toilet and you birthed it, and then forgot to flush it, and then we had to come along and take a look at it. And
I came back and I was like, "Oh yeah, that thing."
Oh, I left that there.
By the way, another point of order on that one. If you are going to be sitting in the toilet doing these kind of things, don't flush the horse condoms down the toilet. They'll just clog.
They'll just clog things.
I mean, they're just a little too much for the plumbing to take.
Well, like if you have a septic system,
too much for anyone's plumbing to take. Really.
Every horse condom down the drain, that's just one you're going to have to deal with later. Okay.
And then just hundreds of horses you're not going to.
Hundreds? You are insatiable, Tiki.
How many sperm do you think come out of a horse at a time?
5.
5. They're very
5
big.
sperm.
They're very, very big.
They're each the size of a donut that Steve would eat.
No.
Oh my god. Yeah, anyway, so and also the other point we're going to go back to, always reminder of this one, use your VPN, people.
Use your VPN, everybody, especially when you're listening to this podcast.
Or watching horse or bovine.
I got to get in contact with VPN Shark and see if they'll sponsor us. But
I'll listen to this episode.
What
do you guys think? You want to sponsor us here?
They're like, no, you perverts. Oh, like we're the only ones that watch horse porn through Shark VPN.
Yeah, you should say to the sales guy, say it like directly to him, like, I'm the only one, right?
Right.
All right, Phil. Whatever you say. It's not like I viewed your history in your computer. Yeah, perfect. That's awesome.
Stuff.
I'm glad that we could maybe even get a sponsor out of this. That would be.
That's the dream.
So sad. So sad on their part.
That's all we want.
So sad for them.
Give us money. All of you, right now.
Well, you should be good as a sponsor. I did. Why are our sales down? Everybody's just trolling us online about horse porn.
That's like every single time somebody loads up their VPN, it's just like a picture of me and a caption that says, "What are you gonna do? What are you gonna do right now, huh? With my smiling expectant face."
But for me, I want to do the thing where they have it's my face, but it's on a body that has like 6-pack abs and super buff, but then it's on top of a horse torso, so like centaur.
Does this do it for you?
All right, listeners.
Does it do it for you?
Any listeners who are artists, please make this.
Please make it happen. All righty.
All right, you guys ready for the gaming stuff?
Yeah, I think I'm ready for the gaming stuff.
All right. What I have titled Bad in-game decision making or forgetting how to play a game.
And this strikes all of us. Some of us more than others. But Steve, why don't you bring up a little example of why you brought this up?
Certain people that I know are affected by this definitely more than others.
Now first, do you have an anecdote from yourself so that we can humanize this and not point the flashlight in one direction only? Because I've got a story of the same kind of thing that I did.
I'm going to point the flashlight first.
Of course you are.
Sorry, did you say flashlight? Did you say flashlight?
I said
flashlight.
Yeah.
Oh,
not flashlight.
Thought we were talking about something else. Carry on.
Horses.
Like a big fucking flat. Go ahead.
So this past weekend, actually got to get together and hang out and play a little Magic the Gathering.
Fun game.
Fun game.
Sometimes.
Good times. Sometimes. Okay. Sometimes when you're not on the losing end. Now, one of our people that we play with pretty regularly, we have mentioned once or twice on this podcast before.
He's a regular cast member, almost.
He's our friend, Mark. Mark makes bad decisions in games. The thing is, Mark continuously makes bad decisions in games. In this one instance, so in Magic the Gathering, it's a card game. So you start off with a hand of 7 cards. in this game you have your currency, your mana, your power source, whatever you want to call it, which is your lands. Ideally, you don't want to stick an opening hand with less than 3, maybe 4, depending on what else you see in your hand. Not just once, but twice in a row, Mark stuck a hand with only 2 lands.
Now, this is a basic principle that everybody is taught really early on, and it's reinforced via the gameplay. If you don't do this correct, you don't get to play your cards, right?
Everyone will do this at some point. The thing is, normally you move on from this. Normally you be like, man, I got blinded by the other things in my hand, and I really wanted to stick the hand, but it didn't work out. I should know better. And eventually you learn and you stop making that mistake. Mark does not stop making this mistake. Even after it bit him in one game. Like, he literally did it in the game that you were there for, Will.
Uh-huh.
You saw it. You were there.
I did.
He couldn't play anything. He was not a factor in that game, except for, facilitating.
Fucking everybody else at the table, except for the one guy that he should have been. Yeah.
So, it is just mind-boggling that he did it again. But, yeah, we all do it. We all do something in games, in lots of different games that you just have those mental lapses in judgment. The one that kind of came quick to my mind, so this is me doing it too, because, again, we are all guilty of it.
Oh, yeah.
I immediately thought of, like, any of the Soulsborne kind of series and, pressing the wrong button and like, healing instead of, like, wasting some of your healing in, like, the boss fight where you didn't need to and you knew you were going to need it later. Continuing to make the same plays.
You're at full health, and
you're full health.
You hit the health button, yeah.
And yeah, you drink that little potion, that little delicious Estus, and you've screwed yourself for later in the game, or at least later in that fight.
Really screwed yourself too. Not even like it's the difference between fighting that boss for the 51st time and getting them down to 2% health and needing one heal left, and it's gone because you idioted at the start of the fight, and then suddenly you have put your controller through your very expensive television because you're so angry at yourself.
Yeah. Just that play that you knew you were not supposed to, and you knew better. You knew, why would I hit that button? Why would I do that? Why would I dodge backward off that cliff?
That cliff was right there. I think there may have been a sign, beware of cliff.
The whole time. You knew it was there. Yeah, I mean, so those are just a couple quick examples off the top of my head. What do you got, Will? What are some of your favorite, just bonehead, I know better moments?
So in video gaming, I do this kind of stuff all the time. Like, all the time. It just happens, and I'm always amazed at how much of a dum-dum I am. I like doing it on the stream because then I get a lot of interaction from the folks that are watching in the stream. The 5 or 6 folks that are watching, they're all like, well, you idiot. And I'm like, yeah, that was pretty stupid.
Do that?
Why did you do that? You could have beat that boss. And I'm like, well, I needed to build some more tension for the 138th try. Ha ha ha. But I think my favorite story that goes like that is so everybody, I think, knows that I like playing poker. I'm a very big fan of the game. I think that it is more complex than almost any other game I've ever played because of the possible permutations of hand versus bet versus player tendencies. I think it's an incredibly deep game. I know how to play pretty basic journeyman poker, including a couple of different variations. Now, there's a variation called Pot Limit Omaha. Pot Limit Omaha is a Texas Hold'em style game where there's you have a couple of hole cards, couple of cards that are dealt to you, and then there are community cards in the center. You get dealt 4 cards, and there are 5 cards placed in the center through the flop, turn, and river. And you bet before the flop, after the turn, and then after the river, and then once all the money is in, you show cards, and you take the best 2 cards from your hand and the best 3 cards from the table, from the communal cards, and that's the hand that you have. Well, standard Texas Hold'em is any 5 cards. So the 2 whole cards that you have, or any combination of those 2 cards and the 5 cards, including potentially having just the 5 cards on the board be your hand if it's the best hand. Now, you end up splitting the pot with anybody else that's still in it because you all qualify to have that hand. So if there's a straight on the board, ace 2 3 4 5 on the board, everybody has that straight. So you split the pot in that instance. I was playing in one of the very first live session games that I'd ever played, where it wasn't just me at a home game with friends. So I was at a home game for some people that I didn't know, and it's one of the very first times, and I'm a little bit nervous because I'm, hoping that my intelligence and knowledge of the game is enough to see me through to winning. And, I win a little bit more than about half the time that I play right now. So 55, 57% of the time, which is enough to show a profit over a long period of time, which is kind of how you measure poker. But this night, we're playing Texas Hold'em, but every hour we do 1 pot limit Omaha hand. And this pot limit Omaha hand, I knew how to play conceptually. And I'm betting, and I'm betting, and I'm betting. And as it turns out, I had forgotten the 3 from the board, 2 from my hand rule. So I just fucking forgot. And I lost about $200 in that one hand because I'm like, oh, I got this straight. I'm gonna take this down, or worst case scenario, I split it, right? Gonna take this straight. It's awesome. And I'm like super, super confident going into it. And the guy that I'm playing against, he flips over his hand and goes, I got, pulls forth his 2 cards, and then the dealer brings forth the 3 cards that it matches with from the communal board. And I look at my hand and I go, oh fuck, I only have the straight if I can use 4 cards from the board and 1 card from my hand. And of course that's not how the game is played. So this guy wins, $200 of my dollars. And if I had just fucking not misclicked in my head, I could have saved myself all of that money by being like, nope, don't need to spend this. Pick your spots a little bit better. I think I would have lost $40 in that one hand because the initial parts of the board were enough for me to justify making calls into the pot. But it was pretty fucking embarrassing. And of course, everybody at the table looks at me like, oh, you poor sweet dum-dum. And I'm just like, this is so embarrassing in front of a group of strangers who, and I still wrestle with the idea of trying to impress people with my intellect from time to time. So this was one of those moments where I'm like, I felt like a really smart guy there for a little while, and now I have cemented that I am an absolute fucking waterhead. So that was probably my favorite misclick moment. Needless to say, I do not do that when I'm in a PLO pot now.
Say that's a very costly.
Yeah, that was expensive.
Yeah, but what you gotta remember though is there are things you can do in front of strangers that are even more embarrassing.
There are. But in the context of playing poker, I mean, other than blowing my nose on the cards or trying to use the chips to masturbate, I don't know what else.
Yeah.
Trying to dipping the chips into the guacamole.
I'm just saying that, and this is why VPNs are important.
That's
so we're gonna
100%.
keep on bringing that back. I had the only one that I've had recently was I had one where I actually in Hunt Showdown I collected both the bounty tokens from the 2 different bounties on the map. I killed I was the last person alive. I knew I was. I was walking towards an exit. Some hellhounds were up ahead of me. Rather than do the smart thing and just avoid them altogether, I went out and I tried to attack them. They chased me. I went up into a tower. I pulled out the large bundle of dynamite and threw it out there with them. I threw it out the window, and I flinched, or something happened, and it skipped off a piece of wood and landed right there with me inside that small space.
You were the last man standing.
I was the last man alive, and
with all of the treasure.
The stupid thing. And like I said, there was still 30 minutes up to the board. I could have gone and fucked around and scavenged stuff and all sorts of things. And it was like, ooh, hellhounds. Well, I don't want to walk 20 feet around them. That's just...
What a waste of time.
Yeah.
That's
So did you know it like when you did it? Did you see it right away, or was it one of those like you died and then saw it after the fact?
It was pretty obvious. I threw it because the window has like a little like kind of like you have to push the window open. It's like and all the hellhounds are outside, but they were too close. I couldn't see down to see them, so I couldn't shoot them, and I couldn't find them if I was just trying to shoot to the floor. And I was running low on ammo, so I was like, well, I'm gonna have to use this huge bundle of dynamite, which will blow up like everything within like a square mile or something like that. I don't even know. And I was like, I've got it, I'm ready. And I had it. I did a couple of things dumb. One, I didn't line up my throw before I lit the fuse.
Oh yeah.
So I was like, shit. I'm like, now what am I gonna do? Oh fuck! Like then
window.
And I threw it at the window, and it was like pink landed right in front of me, and I'm like, oh. I don't even think I got. I'm pretty sure I was dead before I even got the word fuck out. I was just like, oh, fuck.
That's awesome.
That's
it just reminds me of like, I think this is just, it must be a trope in first-person shooter kind of games, right? Like, I remember playing Destiny and blowing myself up with the fucking rocket launcher because I was just too close to something.
Yeah.
Yeah, I had that.
Better.
Yeah, I mean, I've done like the other ones in Hunt too, is when you lay like traps, like you and your team, and if you're not communicating well, like Russ will be running around outside, like doing a perimeter sweep and setting up some traps, and I'm like, cool, and he'll run back in, and I hear the trap go off, and he's like bleeding, and he's like, hey, is this your trap over here? And I'm like, that on that entrance, yes, that is my trap. I put a trap right there.
I would just like you to say no.
Just
I
lie,
didn't put that there. Like, what does he know? It doesn't have like your he can't test for fingerprints on it.
It's like your names on it. Yeah. Like, did you put this trap here? No. I don't know who did that.
I think Cletus did that. We're in the bayou. That's Cletus.
Yeah, really. Yeah.
Mine was over there.
Two people within a square mile of here, asshole. So yeah, there's the communication piece for Hunt is key. I have had like a number of other like bonehead moves in various games that I've played that have led to my death or just something rather unfortunate. And it's, it's just...
We all have.
It is what it is.
We all
I mean...
I don't know.
It's like you're sitting in the bathroom and you flush the horse condom down the toilet. You just absent-mindedly...
Why did I do that?
How would I do that? There's a perfectly good trash can right there.
That's my callback to the entire thing. You brought up horse porn to begin with, and now it's just running.
You're trying to to my horse porn joke?
I'm basically saying you brought this
on yourself. It's a horse porn joke. There's no ruining it. There's just making it better.
And VPNs also being important. We should definitely get a sponsor.
Oh, 100%. If anybody from Shark VPN is listening, we're 100% on board with absolutely whoring ourselves out to your beautiful, wonderful, magnificent, girthy company. Call up
McAfee and just be like, look, man, we're better than John was.
Yeah, 100%. 100%.
At least we didn't murder our neighbor.
I mean, we're not a lateral move. We've got to be a little bit better. Right?
That's the justification. Yeah. You used to be owned and run by John McAfee.
That's pretty funny.
Oh my God.
All right.
Terrible.
Well, we're at the hour mark, which signals...
Wait.
What?
I have one last thing.
Okay.
Before we do the sign-off.
Okay. All right.
I need to shout out to Big Bowler 85 there.
Oh my God, to Big Bowler 85?
Yes.
We call him. We actually are now calling him El Boleador 85.
I like it. Shout out to him for taking the time to look up the baggy skinned fox that I had you talk about.
Oh my God.
Thus proving that your argument that this is not a visual medium is bullshit. because a listener went out of their way to look up this thing.
Oh my God.
And it is glorious.
Bowler, I think
some of our listeners have been unfortunate enough to watch the movies that I've brought up.
I mean, they have,
or at least watch the trailers for them. Either way, it's I got you.
So, shout out to that.
God damn it, Bowler.
Fuck. I had forgotten about that. That's awesome.
You
tried to say that it is not a visual medium.
I did.
No one will get this joke. They got the joke.
Yeah,
I just wanted a way for me to get out of it.
Oh God, now that he's said that, he's encouraging the visual medium. This is going to be so much more.
I know, and there is going to be a visual medium part of the podcast.
Someone's going to make a horse condom.
Centaur. I think horse condoms are already a thing.
Someone's gonna make a horse condom VPN? I don't know, man.
like Magnum Equine? Like, wow.
No, I know it's. I went to an agricultural school for college. I just did. And anyway, it is actually a thing that when you
that sometime.
This is how do you think you get the sperm out of a horse when you want to like give it to a mare?
Ticky.
Well, I asked you to do it.
Never thought of it. That has never crossed my mind.
In the schools, they go out. The schools will do this. The horse ranches will do this, and they'll have a condom on the horse, and they just jack it off, and they take all that semen, and they just turn the condom inside out and fist the female.
5 of them.
Tens, I'm telling you.
Thank you.
It's tens.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
That is a thing.
And with
that is a thing.
Like every episode of the Save vs. Poison podcast.
Somebody tells you they're a horse breeder.
I will fucking mute you. You son of a bitch. Like every episode of the Save vs. Poison podcast, we like to shout out to the mutual support groups you hope you turn to in your time of need. Alcoholics Anonymous, AA.org, 212-870-3400. Moderation Management, moderation.org, 212-871-0974. Stop fucking laughing. Secular AA, www.sossobriety.org, 323-693-1633. Smart Recovery, smartrecovery.org, 440-951-5357. And Women for Sobriety, womenforsobriety.org, 215-536-8026. For family and friends that need a little help in a group-type setting, there's Al-Anon family groups. They can be reached at al-anon.alateen.org or 1-888-425-2666. From the Agricultural Department of the Save vs. Poison podcast, I'm Will.
I'm Tiki.
I'm Steve.
And we wish you warm, creamy regards. Fuck, that takes on a whole new meaning after this kind of podcast. Fucking goddamn degenerates. Good night, everyone. You've just listened to another episode of the Save vs. Poison podcast. If you liked what you heard, please follow us, like, and subscribe on Twitter at @VS_save, on Facebook at the Save vs. Poison podcast, and streaming live on Twitch at twitch.tv/SvP Podcast. Thanks so much for joining us, and stay safe, everyone.